Chris, so what we want to do is a week out from the World Cup, obviously, just look through quickly one by one, just how you're feeling right now so that we can revisit these comments in the weeks to come. Let us start at the very top, mate, with those that are seeded or ranked first, second, third and fourth. What we want is what your thoughts are on how the team is tracking and really what they're going to do at this World Cup. Let's go for Ireland to start with.
Well, obviously world number ones, wandered over to New Zealand, won the Test series. Haven't played Johnny Sexton yet because he was banned. So they've actually been on the winning trail without their talisman. And it always was a big question. Can they win without Johnny? And actually, they've been playing pretty well without Johnny. So it'll be a battle for him to get back in. But they've got huge strength and depth. And they just look, they look the real deal. As you know, they perform appallingly at World Cups. Falling at the quarterfinal hurdle all the time. So finally, this might be their one.
Is it all about weight of expectation on them? Because everything that I've seen from them is playing-wise, they're brilliant. They've got muscly forwards. They attack from everywhere. There, as you say, good strength and depth. Is it all about what's upstairs in that final 2 inches and whether or not they can handle being favourites?
Yeah, winning the Grand Slam was important for them. They delivered. It was at home, so it helps. They've now got to come to France, and and as we know, they're in the worst part of the draw. But I was talking to Serge Betson, the legendary French flanker, this week, and he said, "Look, you've got to beat everybody to win the World Cup. If it comes earlier than you expected, so what? You still got to play these teams. You can't just ignore them." So, yeah, Ireland are up for it. They've got a really, really good squad assembled, and they had something like 8,000 fans at their training session yesterday, and they were all doing the Icelandic clapping, so they've got the fans on side as well.
France, hosts, made the final, never won it. 3 times they've made that final, and they played the All Blacks first up. They've had another raft of injuries. Where are they at?
They're struggling a bit injury-wise. To lose Paul Willemse is a massive blow. If they do come up against South Africa, they need the big bits of meat, and he was the biggest they had. And there's some question about whether he'll make it back for the tournament at all. And they brought in a guy called Bastien Chevreau, who was convicted of what was called a racist attack and given a 6-month suspended sentence in 2020. There's now a huge row about him being in the squad. So the French are not coming to this the way they would have wanted. There are political questions over their selection. There's injuries to Jonathan Dante, to Willemse. They've lost, obviously, Ntamack. So it's not the way they would have wanted it. But you know what? Perhaps a team like France needs to feel their backs are a little bit against the wall to bring out the best in them, because the expectation for them is absolutely massive. 2007, they had a chance. This time, they have a brilliant chance.
Who do you rate out of the two of them, Ireland and France, as more likely?
France, purely because they are going to have a public that in most occasions when they play and they're in big tournaments and don't actually get it right, they turn on them. And they're venomous in the way that they let the team know that they're not performing. This time, they really have got the crowd with them. And that's going to be a massive help for them. Stade de France, great arena, with 80-odd thousand Frenchmen going nuts. It is going to be intimidating. And I think that's the difference this time. I've seen all the 3 French finals when they have failed to deliver. I mean, 87, they were just happy to be there. They played the best game in the semi-final against Australia. 99, they just spent the time punching Australians rather than playing rugby, lost that final. And somehow they managed to lose to you guys in 2011 when you had your 4th choice outside half. And it didn't help them that they'd completely fallen out with their coach. These sort of self-inflicted wounds, despite picking a guy who's been obviously given a suspended sentence for a racist attack, they're in much better shape, despite the injuries, I hasten to add.
South Africa, after the way they did to New Zealand, how does that alter everyone's mindset about this team?
Do you know, they're doing things very differently. They just came in on a ferry from Corsica, which took 10 and a half hours to get to Toulon. And of course, they get off the ferry as passengers, get into a massive coach with Springboks emblazoned along the side, and they're welcomed like heroes because they've got Estebet in their side, who, of course, is the Toulon favourite. So, they don't have to win many hearts and minds in that area of France. What they have to do is prove that on the field they can make it yet another fantastic World Cup triumph. And, just looking, you're trying to work out what is their best back division. You ask, what's the best forward division? The 7-1 split of the forwards. Yes, they could play 7 forwards on the bench, but how do they fit all those backs into that unit? Because they have so many guys in form playing really well, except for 10. And they are going to miss, the guy who was there in 2019. You can't not miss somebody like Pollard. And I think that is the only thing that may come back to bite them when they need those points, those penalties to win a tight game. I'm still not sure that Manny's the guy who can do that.
All Blacks then, who are ranked 4th. That's why I've left us 4th.
Look, you couldn't play any worse than you did in that first 20 minutes at Twickenham. So get it out of your system. Get it out of your system. Be able to bring back Frizzell. Bring back Lurch into the second row. It looks a little bit more of a better heavy hitting forward pack. But boy, that must have taken something out of the self-confidence. And, France first up, they're going to be hoping that the injuries to Willems and to loss of Ensnack will cause some kind of disruption, but I can't see that happening. So you end up as runners-up, and runners-up in Pool A, you play the winners of Pool B, which will be South Africa or Ireland. So, wow, what a quarter-final.
Does the winner come out of that side of the draw? Is it that clear-cut and obvious?
Absolutely, but what shape they'll be in by the time they reach that sort of semi-final, final bit will be open to question, because they are going to be facing each other and basically killing. It's like one of those OK Corral gun fights. The best and fastest draw guys will emerge from that, but boy, they're probably going to be wounded. On the other side, you've got the Nancy boys, dancing through, holding their sort of the flowers and just having such a lovely time on that half of the draw, because it's not really tough at all in the World Cup because there's no good teams over there. That was until Fiji turned up at Twickenham and said, you know what, that half of the draw's now got another team that could be really competitive.
Chris Jones is with us, Times Online, rugbypass.com. We're just looking at, with a week to go, how we're feeling and where these teams are sitting. So, on one side of the draw, I didn't even mention Scotland. Are they capable of an upset of either Ireland or South Africa and getting out of that group?
Can't see them beating South Africa, even though they've put a lot of South Africans in the Scotland team. And you can't miss the fact that they have got 2 props and a fantastic left wing who are fully fledged Bocker, who just happen to be playing for Scotland. They have a great chance of taking on the Irish and beating the Irish just because of Finn Russell. He can open up any defence, and once this Scotland team gets momentum these days, they have a way of winning games. They used to throw them away. They couldn't hold on to a lead. They've become more clinical, and I think that with the way that Russell's going, and of course he's got huge support here in France, having done so well with Racing, that I think that Scotland-Ireland game will be the critical one there. And don't write Scotland off just because they have 23 players now who are as good as anybody else's 23. After that, not so. So a couple of injuries early for Scotland, then their challenge will dissipate.
So we've done 1 through 5. Those are the 5 ranked teams. And then finally, we look at Pool C, Wales, Australia, Fiji. Pool D, England, Argentina, Samoa. I could add in Japan, but their results for the last 12 months have just been woeful. Who out of those 2 pools, those 10 teams involved, is honestly a real threat? And who do you expect to actually get to the final from there?
Well, it seems strange to say this, but I just think England have got one big game in them. And if that game is the Argentina game first up, even though they've got doubts over Courtney Lawes, even though Tom Curry hasn't played and is still injured, even though Elliot Daly's still injured, if you can't write England off. And Steve Borthwick goes into this having, lost five of the last 6 matches, but he's not going to lose his job because, as it's been made known from the RFU, as they have no money, they wouldn't be able to pay him off the £3 million he'd be owed if they decided to bin him after a terrible World Cup. So he goes into this feeling pretty good. He's trying to get the players to play a kick chase game that Leicester and Saracens played. Of course, it's going to be done without Owen Farrell, so it won't be as effective, but George Ford is not a bad stand-in. England beat Argentina, they'll top the group, and they will waltz through to the semi-finals. Argentina beat England. England, yeah. Then you start really the media for any team in the world would, if England lose that first game and they think they've had some bad press, wait till that happens. It's going to be incredible. And on the other side, Wales and Australia, Warren Gatland and Eddie Jones. It's going to be fantastic in the build-up, but they're both worried now about Simon Raoului's Fiji, who are fully loaded. They look really, really good. And if they get off to a good start, fantastic. But, Fiji in the past have had problems with Georgia, who are also in that group. And remember, Georgia beat Wales last time up in Cardiff. So that Pool C, except for Portugal making their debuts in the tournament, that's a really difficult one to call because you have an off day. The Georgian maul and the scrum will take you to the cleaners. And that's the worry for Fiji. If they can get through the Georgia one, they are capable of beating Australia and Wales. And I wouldn't be surprised to see them top the group. And it would be fantastic for World Rugby if that happened.